Good morning, everyone. If we have not already met, my name is Bélanger-Parker, and I have the honor of serving the crane rental industry as your executive director. As we journey toward reconciliation, we acknowledge that our office is situated on Treaty 4 land, the traditional territory of the Cree, Saulteaux, Ojibwe, Lakota, Nakota, Dakota, and the homeland of the Métis. In Canada, there are more than 630 First Nation communities that represent 50 nations. We acknowledge the First Nations, the Métis, and the Inuit, three distinct peoples with unique histories, language, culture, practices, and spiritual beliefs. Wherever you are joining us from today, take a moment to reflect on our shared history as we're all treaty people. With this, I want to wish you a very, very warm welcome to this presentation. And I would like to invite my two rock stars who did all the heavy lifting on this project for the past 2 years to join me. Gentlemen, please quickly introduce yourself.
Good morning, everybody. Mike Lavoie. I'm the operations manager for My Shack Crane and Rigging. And I've had the honor to work with Justin and Claire over the last couple of years on the Boom Dolly Research Committee, along with the pilot project. So welcome, thanks for joining, and very excited to share the results of the survey with you today.
Good morning, everyone. Justin Andrews here. I'm the regional business manager for Canada and Western USA for Tadano America Corporation. It has been seriously an important push for this Boom Dolly Research Committee, and I'm very excited to share the results that Mike, Claire, and myself have reached. So welcome, and I hope you enjoy the presentation.
Thank you very much to both of you. I would like everyone to keep their microphones on mute as well as their camera off. As we're recording, we will be engaging for a question period at the end of the presentation. So thank you so much for your collaboration this morning. We want to start with telling you what has been happening first. Last week, Justin and I traveled to Montreal to do a presentation about the results of the survey to the National Task Force on Vehicle Weights and Dimensions Policy meeting. So what this meeting is basically representative from every Ministry of Transport from across Canada, as well as Transport Canada. And the deputy ministers were in meeting also next door to us. So this were the greatest opportunity we've never had to actually sit down and engage in conversations with a representative from across Canada. So it was a really great day for us and made great connection out there. So the presentation that we're presenting to you today is pretty well exactly what we presented in Montreal. And you will understand as we go forward why we chose to present it to you today as well, because we have several people joining us from across Canada. Some of you may not be as familiar with the project. So we'll go into further details as we move ahead in the presentation. So we gave them a background of who we are as an organization. And by the way, we are celebrating our 25th anniversary next May in Vancouver. We hope you will be there. We told them who we were representing from all across Canada, as well as the change in our membership structure that was voted last year to welcome construction companies and mining companies who have, as you know, in some case have more cranes than some of our operators. They are now welcome into the memberships, because if we're going to have an impact on the crane industry, we want all the partners at the table. Our membership continues to grow into a wave because we have mergers happening all the time and amalgamations as well. The other part that we shared with them is that although Crane Rental Association of Canada represents the entire country, we do not interfere with the association from Quebec, l'Association des Grutiers du Québec, and we do not interfere with the work of the Crane Rental Association of Ontario. We also work closely with BC Crane Safety, which is a different organization than the two provincial one. We are here to support the provincial organization, and we continue to work very closely with the provinces that do not have a natural structure right now to represent their crane companies, the crane rental companies. And we gave them an overview of where we operate in the country. We shared that we are a member and very active now with the International Crane Stakeholders Assembly, and we sit at the table with the CNRA, with SICA from Australia, with the Japan Crane Association, the Association of Equipment Manufacturers, as well as the European Material Handling Federation and the World Crane Transport, and certainly work closely with the International Union of Operating Engineers, sorry. Why are we here is we wanted to position ourselves in front of the task force, because when I looked at the list comparing to 2017, none of the people that were there in 2017 were actually in the room. So we really had to give them a little bit of a background. So if you're not aware, prior to 2017, the Crane Rental Association of Canada did not have the mandate to engage in advocacy or meeting with government on behalf of members. That changed in 2017 after a presentation by Tim Sittler and Dean Schmid at the presentation made in the Montreal conference in 2015. We were informed that there had been another death in our industry, and we wanted to start looking at the combination of all-terrain cranes and boom dollies and why there were so many incidents injuring our operators. So that's how it started, and that's what got us to the table. So in 2017, the board of directors gave the mandate to the Boom Dolly Research Committee to work on harmonizing the Western provinces. So we're talking Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and BC. That is the mandate that the board gave to this committee to start working. And the committee at that point decided that Alberta was probably the quickest win in order to start the harmonization, but also gain the weight, and Alberta was probably the province that was suffering the most with the lowest rate, the lowest weights, I should say. So the committee was formed, and then they did the very first presentation in Montreal to the task force in 2017, in November of 2017, with Tim Sittler, Dean Schmid, and Tim Bennett from NCSG. So they opened that door and really created a ripple effect for the Western provinces to start hearing about our project. Then 2019, we started engaging with the Ministry of Transportation on the specific ask of increasing our weights. We made several presentations. 2021, we launched the project. It was a little rocky start because we had not included the dollies at that point. So 2022, these two gentlemen, Justin and Mike, worked so hard with me in order to build the best presentation that we could present to Alberta, to really show them the importance of using dollies, because we could not measure the impact of the pilot project without them. So that was successful. So in the spring this year, we engaged with the ministry and we started capturing the data around the province. So for us, the importance was for me to go back to our membership and get your feedback, which we were thrilled to read, by the way, and then present the result to the Alberta Ministry of Transport and then to the National Task Force to get them working closer with us. So we are now at a point where we've received your response, and we are engaging with the Ministry of Transportation to gather their research from the survey, not from the survey, but from all the permits that were allotted this year. So now I'm going to turn this over to Justin so he can explain how we presented a little bit about the cranes when we were in Montreal, as well as informing you of this work as well. Go ahead, Justin.
Thank you, Claire. Hi, everyone. So I really want to kick this off. And as Claire said, there was a number of people there that have not, is not very familiar with cranes, does not know the difference. So I just really want to start off with the basics. So it was a very basic discussion and presentation I did here, which was basically showing them the difference between what a truck crane versus an all-terrain. And this is really what kind of bit of a pivot point when I was talking to Alberta about what or how an all-terrain crane is actually built, designed, engineered at the factory compared to a conventional truck crane. So this is a really important pivot point in our discussions. So when I was talking about the crane, about our suspension system having pneumatic hydraulic suspension, and also our steering components, where our steering system on basically all the all-terrain cranes in the market have an automatic steering function, and we do this to protect the roads. When I started really kind of emphasizing protecting the roads, and when I do come down slowly around a corner inside the city, the automatic steering function kicks in. This really opens some eyes. So even just starting off with those basic features was really a key moment for us. And I'll leave it over to Mike to talk about the pilot project prior and then during the pilot project.
Perfect. Thanks, Justin. So some of you on the call are probably already aware because you're housed in Alberta, but for anybody that doesn't know, prior to us being allowed the pilot project weights, increasing the axle weights on the crane, any crane of 5-axle configuration from 200 ton, all the way up to some of the new 300 ton 5-axles required additional trucking support when it came to band season. We were only allowed, 7,600 kgs per axle, meaning that when band season came, we would have to remove the outrigger beams, remove the jibs, remove second winches. All of the auxiliary equipment that is required to operate the crane would have to be taken off so we could meet the axle weights given to us, with in turn sending additional support picker trucks or cranes to reinstall the outrigger beams, jibs, winches, anything that we had to strip off. We had to send the extra support equipment to then put the crane back together on site. So if you want to flip over, with the pilot project, having the increased axle weights on these cranes, it allowed us to, remove the additional support truck because we could leave the auxiliary equipment in, meaning the outrigger beams, jibs, winches, reduce the amount of boom we had scoped out over the back, put more weight on the crane, being able to give us the opportunity to reduce the size of dollies in some applications and reduce the amount of tail swing. So it really helped alleviate the additional support equipment, tractors, picker trucks, cranes, the additional manpower that was required. So it was a really big win, and it really opened their eyes to understand and see what we were up against, and the task that we had to do just to meet these weights, moving forward in bound season in Alberta.
So when we started working on the survey, we went out to the people that had worked on the plan from the beginning to say, okay, what do we need to ask and how should we do it? So we prepared a very simple, survey to really capture the feedback from you, the members that actually participated in the pilot project. We sent out the request to participate in the survey. We received 22 responses, and in the end, and 6 companies did not indicated why they did not participate. Either they did not have cranes, all-terrain cranes, or only had one that was staying on one site. But overall, the response that we captured in this survey represent 12 companies. And in some case, we had 2 individual responding for the same company because they are operating in different parts of the province in Alberta. The survey was sent out to all our crane rental company members in Western Canada from Manitoba to BC, just to make sure that we captured any companies that actually operate in Alberta. The first question that we asked was related to safety, and this really demonstrated everything that the original people, Tim Sittler, Tim Bennett, and Dean Schmid were telling us. You are going to see reductions everywhere. So 100% of the participants responded that they saw a reduction in damage to machinery. In 75% in incidents reduction, 62% in dolly incidents reduction. Injuries as well was big, and we left absenteeism in the safety area because members were telling us that when someone doesn't show up for the job, everyone else is at risk. So that was an important task here. Over to you, Mike.
Thanks, Claire. So some of the safety impacts that people had put forth in the survey are listed on the screen here, and some of these are very important for sure, and we were pleased to see the response from everybody. But some of the things being that we're able to keep outriggers in, jibs, auxiliary winches on the cranes in the pilot project. Driving on slippery, muddy, or inclement road conditions was a lot better because we were able to keep axle weights increased, keep more weight on the crane as opposed to on the dolly, meaning we would have more traction. Typically pulling a 5-axle dolly, so they can run a 3-axle dolly in the pilot project to keep more weight onto the crane, lower the gross rate. With keeping the tail swing reduced, keeping the boom scoped in, minimizing the tail swing, they didn't have any incidents in band season with tail swing, and then a definite reduction on the near misses on public roadways when it comes to congestion because the cranes are that much smaller, going around corners, tight communities, tight areas, working in the cities, construction sites, everything like that. Somebody noted that they were down 75% incident frequency due to the new axle weights during band season. I mean, that's a pretty significant win. If you ask me, that's a big one. So, less time spent reconfiguring crane configurations, less incidents, reduction of pinch points, crush points from injuries when they're installing outrigger beams or taking them out. There's a lot of factors that come into play when you're taking these pieces of equipment apart and putting them back together. Not only the injuries, but you're putting yourself at risk for failure or damage to the equipment. So that was a good one to see for sure. Less driving hours as a reduction of the auxiliary transportation on the highways. And then again, reduction of man hours and the potential for incidents and near misses by not having to reconfigure and take the cranes apart and putting them back together.
Then we dove right into the workforce and the impact of the pilot's project on the workforce. And this is what you have told us, that they saw a reduction of labor hours on site, reduction of labor hours for support vehicle, and administrative labor hours as well were reduced. As you see these slides, we put the number of response and how many responded to each of the questions.
So then some of the impacts that the feedback we got was, without having to remove the outriggers from larger all-terrain cranes, we're able to reduce the amount of fatigue experienced by our operators. The removal and installation takes a couple of hours in the yard and then a couple of hours on the job site. Sometimes the outriggers require additional transportation trucks to deliver to site, and this would in turn tie up another operator, reducing the manpower that they would have to utilize for work at hand. With the large workload and less availability of manpower during the busy spring turnaround season, it made it a lot easier to ensure each job had the proper number of people to complete jobs safely without having to remove and install all of the components on the cranes. And then to add to that, the pilot project has allowed us to mobilize and demobilize our cranes with less loads and resources, as well as the more attachments on the cranes, meaning jibs, which in turn reduces the amount of labor and resources required. It also helped lower the risk factor due to not having to dismantle the equipment and put it back together. And then again, overall morale was higher, which, was kind of interesting to hear because, everybody in Alberta, when it comes close to band season, everybody's dreading the extra work, the extra trucking, the extra cranes, and all the extra things that come with it. So that was a good one to see that the overall morale was boosted for that as well. And then able to complete more work with the same crews was another win for sure. So great feedback.
Mm-hmm. I should say that the reaction we were getting in the room as we presented in Montreal was quite remarkable. There was a lot of screenshot taken, and people were nodding and really engaged. And we did present in the late afternoon between their time going out to the lounge and the last presentation. So the impact on support vehicle, again, no surprise here. I mean, we heard about the reduction of the support trucks on the roads, and then as well as support cranes.
And then some of the impacts that were noted, one specifically that kind of stuck out, we have started to switch our cranes over to smaller dollies due to the higher weight limits allowed on the cranes. Now we don't require a 5-axle dolly, and we're able to keep the total weight down on the crane from 85,000 kg to around 67,000 kg. We burn approximately 35% less fuel with a smaller dolly, and it has also helped with training of new operators in the industry, as it is a lot easier to back up a 3-axle dolly as opposed to a 5-axle dolly. So again, those are all very valid and truthful points, and it was great to see that feedback. Installation of outrigger beams in tight work sites was reduced. As many of us know, some of these sites we go to in the cities and municipal areas are very tight, and there's not a lot of room. So that was a huge improvement, not trying to jam extra trucks or pickers to put the cranes together and take them apart. Less vehicles on the road gives us lower exposure to both safety incidents and DOT incidents or inspections. We're able to perform more services for more customers while utilizing less vehicles, and a significant reduction in vehicle cost.
In terms of permitting, we wanted to know if members that encountered too many challenges, not any challenge. So here we see that 37% of the respondents said it was easier, 56% said it was the same, and there was only one that indicated it was more difficult. This was interesting to us because, to me, when I think it was you, Mike, who mentioned that we should ask this question in the survey, I thought, why would we have an impact on the supply chain? And Justin really piped in on this one. Go ahead, Justin, what it meant for you.
Absolutely. So the supply chain was interesting. Being a manufacturer, coming through these years, especially with these COVID years and, a lot of factories shut down, it's very tricky for us to get materials. So when there are damages to machines or, due to the way we strip down the machines, taking beams out, etc., there's going to be more damages. So that means those parts need to be replaced, need to be fixed, and that puts a strain on our already damaged supply chain. So there are a number of factors here which I could talk about, but that was really majorly it, where we found that, it was much more helpful running these weights through this pilot project. And, this can go across all manufacturers, even into the dolly side of things. And then when it comes to building the machines, building these large machines, I need to actually select a different type of outrigger disconnection, which, that may be choked in the supply chain with all the components we need to build. So this was massive on the manufacturing side.
So we ask our members in Alberta to tell us what were their challenges with municipalities. So some of you say, well, Claire, I'm not saying that you struggled with certain communities. I didn't put the names of the communities in the presentation we did in Montreal. These are things that we are going to work behind the scene, getting in touch with the communities where you had challenges with bridges. That's how we work behind the scene to help you gain better access in certain cities around Alberta. So we know that in some communities there were challenges, and at the very beginning the information had not flown down to all the permitting offices in Alberta. The ministry has acknowledged that obviously, you know, communication breakdowns everywhere, certainly during COVID as well, and recovering from COVID. So they continue to improve their communication channels within the ministry. And we've been working very closely with the Municipality Association in Alberta, both association rural and urban, in order to constantly be in contact with them on your behalf. I speak to the policy writers, I speak to the two EDs in those organizations to ensure that if they hear anything from their communities, to contact me so that I can reach out to the ministry and have a conversation. So, you know, the majority of you said, you know, they had good cooperation. So we're really happy to hear that, and we will continue to speak on your behalf. The bridges, absolutely. It's a problem across the country. I must say it's not just an Alberta problem. Mike?
Yeah, so some more of the comments we got from it, which again, were all great. You know, by raising crane axle weights, we can get away from running converter style dollies. You know, a lot of people have switched to switching to the triaxle dollies, reducing the tail swing, putting more weight on the crane. Able to be legal year round with a 5-axle crane and smaller cranes. This can allow us to keep the crane around 15 to 20,000 kgs lighter. It also helps save on fuel, operator training, cost of building, you know, big expensive 5-axle dollies. The permits are around 50% cheaper with the smaller dollies. The 3-axle dollies can cause less traffic congestion, you know, less incidents with tail swing. You know, the cranes can get up to speed faster, not, you know, pulling the big heavy dolly. And again, traveling throughout the city, they don't have to worry about the tail swing issues as much because that's reduced. Another positive addition that was noted was the, you know, safely moving an oversized vehicle and the overall cost savings on all fronts with less vehicles on the roadways, less fuel burned, and safer driving conditions. You know, with that comes less fatigue. You know, it's easier on the manpower, the workforce for sure. The ultimate goal, of course, would be to increase axle weights for all terrains and eliminate the use of dollies year round, which I'm not going to lie will be a big feat, but we'll continue to fight the good fight and see where we can go. And then the last one there was, you know, thankful for particularly all that was involved throughout the pilot project. We have large tires and more displacement than other commercial vehicles, and it makes sense that we wouldn't be bound by same restrictions, meaning, you know, less damage done to the roadways with the oversized tires and more surface area displaced to the ground.
So as we wrapped up our presentation in Montreal, we really impress onto them that the increasing the axle weight has allowed us to transfer the weight back to the crane and improve control, traction, stability, and braking. We also left with them that we are working toward harmonizing weights and dimensions between provinces to improve safety on public roads, that we really want to, you know, work with every province and the federal government in order to ease the movement of cranes across Canada. And we basically dropped the thought in their mind that it's time to have a Canada-wide study on bridge formula, because every province who reported on weights and dimensions from the ministry side all mentioned their bridges and their bridges issues. So we took the opportunity to tell everyone at the table that we're here to work with them. And when they're building bridges, when they're working toward new infrastructure, that they should reach out to us. So as this part of the morning program with you ends, I want to thanks again, Justin and Mike for their help. And please do all stay, because I'm going to ask everyone who wants to ask questions and engage with us to turn on your camera, your mic, so that we can actually have a real conversation. I am going to stop sharing my screen in a second here. And we'll tell you a little bit more as to where the province is at. We received a late correspondence yesterday afternoon indicating that the Ministry of Transportation representative, Andrew Pillman and Don Liskey, could not join us this morning, but certainly they have committed to us that now the work begins for them. They are going back to study the data that has been collected throughout the pilot project. They know exactly how many permits were issued, which roads were used. So they have to go back and meet with their pavement engineers, look at if there was any issues at certain time of the year. And I believe, Justin, you wrote down the number of permits that were issued. Would you like to share that?
Yes, the permit side of things was actually really important, and I remember on the call before we actually started the pilot project in spring. I was very adamant on the video to please, like, run these permits. We need data. The more data we get, the better chance we have of actually getting these weights put through. And if anyone's not familiar with the weights, it was on this size of crane, like a large 5-axle with 20.5s. It was 7.6 ton an axle up to 9.5 for spring. So, this was a really, really big thing. So when we saw the results of the permits, it was 1,829 permits that came through the system. And that was mind-boggling. That was huge, because when they showed us the map, where all the cranes are gone and all the routes they took, it paved a really strong picture where these cranes are going, where they're working, so they can really go and assess it. Without that data, we cannot move any further forward. It would just be impossible. So really thank you to everyone for doing that.
And then the summer permits were at 461 and the fall permit were at 414. So what this tells us is that now we will have a benchmark. And if there are absolutely no damage to the roads during the spring ban, using dollies at 9,500 kg per axle, then we can run this for a few years. And then in a few years, we can go back to the table and say, could we run another pilot project? So obviously the door has been open. The relationship has been established with Alberta. We're working closely, and there is, certainly hope for the future. But the biggest win from the Montreal presentation is this. The entire country understands that harmonization from Newfoundland to British Columbia through the Northwest Territories, the Yukon, and the Nunavut is impossible, absolutely impossible. But harmonizing sections of the country is possible. So if we are going to put our focus now on really implementing harmonization in the West, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and BC, as close as we can get. But Saskatchewan and Manitoba being in gumbo, I don't think we'll ever see the weights that we see in British Columbia. And then we will work with the Maritimes province. And I know we have people on the call this morning. I hope they will speak to us about what's going on in the Maritimes. But that will allow us to work in collaboration with each of the provinces that need our support from the national body, and really support Quebec and Ontario when they need us. The other great result from the task force presentation is that the door is now open for the crane industry to have its own table, to have its own meeting every year, to meet with all the ministries of transport from across Canada, to speak directly about heavyweights and large dimension vehicle. So this was, to me, the biggest win from that meeting. And Justin, would you like to speak to that and what you feel was at the end of the meeting?
Definitely, it was amazing, actually. So we had a very engaged audience, and at the 11th hour, like at 4:30 in the afternoon, it was, that's where everyone's kind of looking to knock off for the day. So having everyone's attention and very engaged was extremely surprising to us. And then after this meeting, Claire and I started walking around. We started to, hunt around, find the BC contacts and Saskatchewan contacts, Manitoba contacts. and they were very warm and welcoming, and they were very not surprised, but very open to discussing. So, well, Alberta moved this much, then why can't we? So that was a discussion we had, and it feels like all the barriers are starting to come down, all the walls are coming down. And then Claire and I met up with the representative from the Yukon. That was a very, very, very good experience, and he was very warm and welcoming for ideas and discussions. So if we get this western section of BC, Alberta, Yukon, and move into Saskatchewan, and then we have the contact now for the correct contact now for Manitoba, our goal is really to face that and knock down these walls.
And the last thing I would like to share is that the door is open for us to start working on a memorandum of understanding for the entire country in relation to the crane industry. So it was really a delight to be able to represent this organization in Montreal, and I want to thank all the members from Alberta who contributed to the success of this pilot project. Your responses open doors like you cannot imagine, and the time that you took to engage with me in the last 2 years to move this file forward. I know it takes time, and I want to thank, there's a lot of people that have been on this committee from Alberta, and I will not name everyone because the list is too long, but certainly Justin and Mike, and we had people, our friend Denderfer, sorry, Mark, I want to call him Jerry, but it's Mark, and everyone else who came before us that prepared the road for us to achieve this. So from the province's perspective, Andrew's message yesterday indicated that they're now going back to their engineers, they're doing their work, and they will reach out to us in early January to reconnect, evaluate the data, and they will be willing to, and they are interested and willing and certainly want to share that information with all of you as well in the new year. So there will be another invitation coming in the new year. So we'll open the floor now for questions. If you can turn on your camera so that we can engage, and open your mic when you ask your questions. Bob, I'll give you the mic first. Do you want to turn on your mic? I'm going to ask you to unmute. Can you hear me, Bob?
Yes, I can hear you, Claire.
Okay, perfect. Any questions?
So what I understand, they're going to study again the results of this pilot project, and then hopefully before January for band season we can move on the same we did, or we go back to the old regulations. Is that pretty much what I understand?
The goal is that we are moving forward with the new weights. They told us that they have not heard any complaints. Their permit office were happy with the way things were going. They did not receive any complaints from communities, municipalities about the pilot project or about the weights. So our goal and the goal of the team in the permit office is to move these new weights into policy for spring. Unless something comes out of the data that would completely surprise us, at this time, I believe that we will be ready for spring.
Okay, thank you. That was
Another point for that one there, Claire, is they were actually keeping track and see if there was any other complaints from motorists on the road, tail swing hooks flying across the road, etc., into other lanes, etc. They said they didn't get any calls about that, because they do usually get calls about that. Plus, also they were looking for accidents, and they did say there was a reduction in accidents quite substantially due to this change. Well, maybe not due to the change, but they definitely noticed a major drop in accidents.
Anyone else? Hi, Nabil.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
Good. Hey, I have a question. Sorry, I think it's hooked up to my laptop camera. 1 second, I'll switch my camera.
Looks like you're snowed in then, Nabil.
Yeah, I think it's on my laptop. I gotta close. Besides, like, obviously the tail swing and the destruction of the roads in Alberta, what is one of their other major concerns to not move forward with the weights? And
What I gathered and what I heard from every province in Montreal last week is the bridge formulas, the bridge conditions. And Ontario spoke up because in Ontario a few years ago, the government basically gave green lights to heavy loads.
Yeah.
And now the engineers are saying that they're building bridges that should last 40 years. And they are seeing a reduction of the lifespan of those bridges of 20 years. And that's a huge cost to government to look at the amount of infrastructure funding that are put into bridges and to realize that what they expect will last 40 only last 20. They were quite outspoken about that issue, and I do believe that that is the concern. We also have to realize that Canada is only a few hundred years old, and on European roads that are 800 years old roads, the pavement is a lot stronger, and the way that they build roads in Europe is very different than what we have here. So whenever we compare ourselves to the European weights, I think we have to be conscientious of the reality of where we live. And Alberta is the concern is the last thing we want is watching a mobile crane go on a bridge that collapsed. That really is the biggest fear. And that was the reason why I told everyone that if we collaboratively with the federal government and each of the province start really paying attention to bridge formulas and start, do a study across Canada on bridge formula, we may be able to assist some of the provinces a little better with increased weights. But I would say, and Justin, I turn to you on that, that's the message, that I heard is the concern over bridge mostly, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So one comment was basically that every province has a different formula. And then why is it a different formula? And that even goes into the states as well, and every state has a different formula. So that was a kind of like a general discussion, but a lot of engineers and set in their ways, I should say. But that was definitely a discussion which will be coming in the future for sure.
And where the bridge formula is that much different just because of the design of the bridge and obviously what's probably flowing underneath it. I would imagine they have a few factors that change it, but shouldn't change it by too much, right?
Yeah, you'd think so. I guess time will tell with that one. It may just be what the engineer's interpretation of a bridge formula would be, what they consider safety, how much margin they have, etc. So we'll just have to wait and see.
You could sell it to them, Justin. Like if we cut the bridge life in half, we could give them a reduced price in craneage to rebuild the bridge.
There you go. That's a way to do
it. More work for us.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's awesome. I appreciate the answer and the feedback. It's good. We got bridges leaving Grand Prairie here nonstop that bottleneck me to like 58.5 and 58.9, and I'm just like, got to get these weights up for sure. So appreciate the work.
Thank you.
No worries.
Gus, you disappeared. I hope you come back. Welcome, and thank you to you as well. You have been an instrumental partner and support in getting this forward. So my personal thanks to you, Gus. You've been an extraordinary mentor to me.
I appreciate that comment. Thank you very much, Claire. Everybody can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, all right, cool. Because I can't see myself anymore. So, but all I wanted to say is thanks to the team to advance it to this stage and to all the non-Alberta participants in the meeting. stick with the program, right? It, as you could see from the start of the presentation, it took us as a group 7 years to get here, right? So it's a slug. It takes forever. But if this is the end result, and through that we can continue to advance the discussion and have a real discussions around bridge formulas right now, that is a major win. It just takes forever, right? But sticking with it and continue to support the effort. Right now we are, I guess, financially less dependent on contributions than we were before, but it took a lot of money and a lot of effort to kickstart this. And whenever the next province or provinces call and the Crane Rental Association needs funding again, just make sure that you realize where we came from and how long it took, and that we ultimately, through persistence, we will get some results. So that's literally all I wanted to share. No comments or questions on where we are and where it's going. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gus. That's
Thanks,
really,
Gus.
yeah. I think today for me is the power of association at its best. Really, it's having brought members together to work toward a common goal, and everyone embracing that vision to get the results that we're getting. So that's why your association is there for you. I know we had people from the Maritimes on the call. I'm gonna ask if Ryan Long is still on the call, maybe to give us a little bit of what's going on in Eastern Canada. And if not, that's okay, because we will be sharing the content of this video for members that wishes to learn a little bit more about the work that's gone on in Alberta. Any other questions? I guess it's quiet. Mike and Justin, Mike, if you want to wrap up this with your closing remarks.
You're on mute, mate.
Sorry about that. I'd definitely like to echo a lot of the comments you shared earlier, Claire, and thank everybody that participated in the survey. We needed the information that you guys put forth to be successful for the meeting that Claire and Justin had. I'd like to thank everybody for participating in the single trip permits, getting Alberta the proper information to do their homework and studies to come up with the best answer possible, which we feel strongly will be to move forward for next spring season. Again, I'd like to thank everybody before my time, with the Crane Rental Association that, took the time and resources to get us to where we are today. I feel this is a very big win for all of us. I'm very happy to share this and very excited to see what comes in the future. So again, thanks to everybody. Truly appreciate it. I appreciate being part of this team. So thanks again. And, I wish you all the best. And if we don't talk, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to everybody. So thank you.
I just like to say, yeah, again, thanks to everyone. This has been a big push for a lot of years, and a lot of money and time have been invested. A lot of studies have been invested, and all the personnel that were really involved in the early days of this. You guys pushed it 99%. Like, it was right there, ready to go. It just needed us a little bit nudge in the right spot, and to really get over the edge. And I kind of came in, and Mike and I came in and just able to do a little push, but you guys did all the grunt and meat work. So I really appreciate all that. You guys should be thanked the most for everything that's happened. And, this is a great win. We're going to save lives doing this. This is going to be fantastic. So hopefully all goes well and we get these weights through and it comes in a policy. I just wish everyone the best. And, it's just going to be all smiles from here. So if I don't talk to everyone before Christmas, please have a great, happy and safe Christmas.
Thank you both for all your hard work these past 2 years. I think I've spent more time with you at times than I was spending with my own partners, especially Justin, for the amount of time that you spent teaching me everything you knew about all-terrain cranes. I greatly appreciate it. And to all of you, our members who have joined us today, I thank you for being a part of this. We are going to slowly move into British Columbia now and start working there now that we have accomplished something really good for Alberta, and start working within the BC regulations. For the BC members that are on the call, please reach out to either one of us to indicate your primary concerns, and then we will work together to achieve new results within British Columbia. To all of you, on behalf of the Board of Directors of the Crane Rental Association of Canada, on behalf of the Boom Dolly Research Committee and myself, I wish you a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thanks, Claire.
Thank you.